INEOS holding fresh talks with new managers to replace Erik ten Hag. A Saudi club reportedly willing to offer £128 million for Bruno Fernandes, and another Saudi club willing to offer around 70 million for Casemiro. These are some of the stories we will be discussing on this evening's show. But before we get into that, please do me a small favour, smash a like on today's video. Let's try and see 200 likes on this evening's show. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe to the channel too. I will be live throughout the whole of the transfer window. There'll be a video in the morning, a video in the evening, and if anything breaks during the day, I do go live. So do make sure to subscribe for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. Right. So much things to get into on the show this evening. Obviously, more and more stories coming out about Erik ten Hag. Lots and lots of players looking like they're going to leave. So let's just jump straight on into it. Let's start the show off by talking a bit about Casemiro, shall we? Because he looks like a player who is definitely going to leave the club this summer. Fabrizio Romano this morning said that apparently Saudi clubs are bracing to put in a big bid for Casemiro. And one journalist has gone as far as saying this. They say Al Nassr are ready to offer around 90 to 100 million euros to sign Casemiro this summer. The story says that he is a priority target for the Saudi club and is said to be keen on the move. So obviously Al Nassr is where Cristiano Ronaldo plays. Another journalist this morning said that apparently Ronaldo has been speaking to Casemiro, speaking to him about what life is like in Saudi Arabia and effectively convincing him to move there this summer. Now, I would be absolutely shocked if Casemiro is still a Man United player come the beginning of the season. I would be honestly shocked. I think he's 32 years of age now, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check that. Yeah, 32 years of age. I think he's got 2 years left of his current contract. If we're going to sell him, this is the right time to sell him. Cash in, clear the wages, and move forward. You know, bring in a younger replacement. Is he worth 95 million euros? No, that story sounds absolutely stupid to me. I think best case scenario, you probably get about 40 million euros for him, I imagine, something around that kind of figure. I mean, if we get 90 million euros, I would be a very happy man, but I think the likelihood of that happening is next to zero, to be honest, because, you know, people think that the Saudi clubs throw money around. Most of the time, they're throwing money at wages. Like, if you actually look back at the most expensive Saudi signings, right? I know they've bought some players for quite a lot of money, but overall, like, they don't actually spend that much on transfer fees. You know, have a look through. So the most expensive signing in the Saudi league ever was Neymar for 90 million euros, and he was 30 at the time. I don't think 90 million euros is that crazy for Neymar, really, is it? For a 30-year-old Neymar. Or if you look at, say, Sadio Mane, he was 30 when Al Nassr signed him, and they got him for 30 million euros. Like, I don't think that's ridiculous money. Laporte, they bought from Man City at the age of 28 for 27 million euros. So there's this connotation that, you know, the Saudi clubs will pay 300, 400 million for players. Like, they don't do that. What they do though, is they give them crazy wages. So yeah, we're not going to get 90 million euros for Casemiro. I think, you know, somewhere around 40 would probably be fair. That's what I'm kind of expecting, and that's what I would hope to get. But we'll wait and see what happens. Obviously, I think anywhere between 40 and 50 million euros for Casemiro would be a good bit of business. It allows us to go and get Amadou Onana from Everton, maybe. Youssouf Fofana is another player we've been linked to. A story came out earlier on today saying that apparently Fofana will leave Monaco this summer. He's got 1 year left of his contract, and he will be leaving. So let's wait and see what happens with that one. I would very much like to see Fofana or an Amadou Onana. You know, there are lots of good options out there available in the centre midfield position. There are some people saying that they want to see Frankie de Jong come. I don't think Frankie de Jong wants to come to Manchester United. I mean, I think that's very, very clear. I think the likelihood of him coming is very, very small. And the other thing with Frankie de Jong is he's had quite a few injury problems this season. He's had the same knee injury on 3 different occasions. So I think that is definitely a red flag. So for me, Frankie de Jong, incredible player, but I personally wouldn't go for him now. I think he had his opportunity. Was it 2 years ago? Yeah, 2 years ago, he had his opportunity. He decided not to come. And I would look at alternative targets personally, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Moving on to the centre-back position, Fabrizio Romano has been speaking today about Gonçalo Inácio from Sporting Lisbon, a player I really, really like. I think he's a really interesting option as a new centre-back. He is 22 years of age. He is right-footed, which I think is effectively... Sorry, he's left-footed, actually. Forgive me, he is left-footed. So at the moment, the only left-footed centre-back we have is Martinez. We realistically need a left-footed and a right-footed centre-back this summer. I think Branthwaite is left-footed. I might be mistaken, though. Let me double-check that. Let's have a look. Branthwaite is... Yeah, left-footed. So we're going to get one left-footed centre-back and one right-footed centre-back. I think for the left side, you've got obviously Branthwaite, you've got Gonçalo Inácio, and then the right side, you've got players like Todibo. So a dream summer for me would be getting someone like Todibo, and then as well as Todibo, someone like Gonçalo Inácio, someone like Jared Brathwaite. Now, Fabrizio Romano has been talking about Gonçalo Inácio, and he says that Manchester United appreciate Gonçalo Inácio. He has a release clause of around £51 million. So that's a solid option there. You know, if you go to Everton and they say, oh, we want 80 million for Branthwaite, which they might do, then Gonçalo Inácio for 50 as another left-footed centre-back is a really, really solid option. But I mean, £51 million is still a hell of a lot of money, isn't it, for a left-back? A centre-back. But yeah, we'll wait and see what happens with that one. Let's see what people are saying in the chat this evening. Everyone who's just joined the video, if you could do me a small favour and smash a like on today's show. Let's try and hit 200 likes on this evening show. And if this is your first time watching, make sure you subscribe as well. I will be live throughout the whole of the transfer window. I usually do about 2 or 3 videos a day. So, you know, if you want to keep up to date with all the latest Man United news, talk, all of that good stuff, make sure you hit the subscribe button and get involved. Right. So we've obviously talked about Gonçalo Inácio. We've spoken a little bit about Erik ten Hag. I will circle back to Erik ten Hag. I wanted to highlight you back to some quotes, actually, from Jim Ratcliffe and get your thoughts on it. So Jim Ratcliffe did an interview back in March where he was talking about Arteta. And he said this. He says, Arteta has done well and Arsenal have been patient with him. He says, I just wanted to highlight that. So effectively, it was only 2 or 3 months ago. And he was talking about Arteta and how well he's done at Arsenal. And Jim Ratcliffe was really in support of, you know, being patient with managers and giving them time and all the rest of it. Now, I saw this interview pop up on my timeline earlier. And I thought, how can 2 months ago he do an interview, a public interview, saying that, you know, managers should be given time, it's a project and all the rest of it. And then literally 2 months later, we win a trophy and we're considering sacking him. It doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't. But in all fairness, from what I've heard, apparently Jim Ratcliffe and Jean-Claude Blanc want Ten Hag to stay. Apparently it's Dave Brailsford who's not convinced and wants to change him. But the people that Dave Brailsford are looking at is like Gareth Southgate, Graham Potter. Like, those are the types of managers that Sir Dave Brailsford thinks will be a better option. So I'll be honest with you, let's hope they side with Jim Ratcliffe and Jean-Claude Blanc, because they seem to understand Manchester United better than what Sir Dave Brailsford does. But we'll wait and see. Obviously, it's a voting system. Joel Glazer's still on the board. Joel Glazer will have a say. And but in relation to the manager, there was a big story that just dropped about 10 minutes ago from Fabrizio Romano. And Fabrizio this evening is reporting that apparently INEOS have been holding fresh talks with 3 or 4 different managers this week. So, I mean, today or Saturday or Sunday. I mean, that's just crazy. Obviously, the managers being Poch, Tuchel, De Zerbi and Thomas Frank. Those are the managers that Manchester United are talking to. And Fabrizio has confirmed that we are still talking to those managers. So I don't really understand. If they're talking to these managers, then they clearly want to sack Erik ten Hag. Do you know what I mean? Like, and if they've made that decision, then they've made that decision. And just get on with it. I don't want that to happen, but what good is it doing us having reliable journalists put out stories saying that our owners are speaking to other managers still? They clearly don't want him to stay, do they? Otherwise, why would they be speaking to other managers? Why would the day before our biggest game of the season, you know, journalists leak that Erik ten Hag was going to be sacked? Why, after we've just won our biggest trophy in probably 6 or 7 years, do we not know if Erik ten Hag is going to be the manager, you know? And they're talking to replacements. Mark says, what replacements are they talking to? So apparently they've been speaking to Poch. They've been speaking to Thomas Frank. They've been speaking to Thomas Tuchel and De Zerbi. Those are the 4 managers. If Erik ten Hag is sacked, one of those 4 managers will become the new Manchester United manager. Thomas Tuchel, Thomas Frank, De Zerbi, or who was the other one? Poch. I mean, I'll be honest, none of them excite me whatsoever. They really don't. If I had to pick one of them, just for argument's sake, I would probably say Thomas Tuchel. Hopefully he'd come in and we'd get some success in the next couple of years. He'd probably leave then and we'd start the process again. But I think out of those 4 managers, he would be the most likely to succeed. But I still, I still don't particularly want a manager who, let's be honest, has failed at Bayern Munich, did well at Chelsea, but then was sacked, and in my opinion, failed at PSG. Like, I don't want that. He's a good manager, but he's not a manager for the next kind of 10, 20 years. He's a manager for like 1 or 2 seasons who's going to fall out with the owners, fall out with the players, and then leave. And that's not what we need, is it? And, when you look at the rest of the markets around Europe, Napoli have just got Conte, Fenerbahce have just got Mourinho, Barcelona have just got Hansi Flick, Bayern Munich have just got Vincent Kompany. Like, all of the top clubs have got their managers now. And effectively, we're left with the managers that nobody wants. Nobody wants Poch. Nobody really wants De Zerbi. Nobody seems to want Thomas Tuchel. And Thomas Frank, I'm not going to include Thomas Frank in that because I think, Brentford want Thomas Frank. Brentford and Thomas Frank have done really well together. So I'm not going to, put Thomas Frank in that same category because I think Thomas Frank's done an amazing job at Brentford considering how little resources they are. I just don't think he's a Man United level manager. So he's kind of been put to the side. Poch, Thomas Tuchel and De Zerbi are slightly more higher regarded managers, aren't they, in the grand scheme of things? Cesar says, Kieran, what do you think about Allegri? I don't think Man United will go for Allegri. I mean, I've heard absolutely nothing about Allegri, to be honest with you, mate. I think the likelihood of Allegri coming to Manchester United is probably 1 or 2%, He's never managed outside of Italy. I just think it would be a massive risk. He's been a manager since 2003, Allegri, for over 20 years, and he's never managed out of Italy. That kind of sums it up for me. I think he's a manager that, is an Italian manager, effectively. He manages in Italy. Let's have a look at what the bookies are saying today, because I always do like to keep a little lookout at the bookies to see what they have to say. So at the moment, the favourite in the bookies is Poch. He's the number 1 favourite. The second favourite is De Zerbi. Then it's Thomas Tuchel. And then 4th, they've got Southgate at the moment. So those are that's in the bookies. Obviously, the bookies can be wrong, but I probably would expect if Erik ten Hag was to be sacked, it will either be Poch, De Zerbi, or Thomas Tuchel. Those would be my kind of most likely options. I think the likelihood of Thomas Frank getting it is very, very small. I would be shocked if Thomas Frank was the new Man United manager. But big ups to Fred, who's just gifted 5 memberships to the Daily Red Devil Members Club. Thank you very much for your support, my friend. Really, really appreciate it. Everyone who got a membership gifted, please do say thank you to Fred in the comments section. So yeah, big ups to you, Fred. I hope you're doing well, mate. I hope everything is good. But what you guys can do is you can let me know in the comment section. I know this is a really difficult question to answer, and I appreciate that. But let's just play along with me here, okay? If Erik ten Hag is sacked, which he might be, who do you want to replace him? Let me know in the comment section. You have to pick somebody. You can't say, I want to keep Erik ten Hag. I want to keep Erik ten Hag, okay? But for argument's sake, you need to tell me who's going to be the new manager. Let me know. Hopefully Erik ten Hag stays. That's what I hope and pray happens. But let's just have a bit of fun here. If you had to pick one person, who would it be? And we've got a poll going as well on the live chat. 87% of people watching today's video want Erik ten Hag to stay, and only 13% of people want Erik ten Hag to leave. I mean, that's absolutely mad, isn't it? 87% of people. And I've seen other polls on other channels and on Twitter, and it seems to be the same across the fan base. Like 85% of people on the forums I've seen want Erik ten Hag to stay, but yet they're still considering sacking him. Somebody says, Poch did nothing at Chelsea. Why is he favourite? Because INEOS really like Poch. They tried to get him before, I think, when he was at Nice. I don't know. I think Poch is... a strange option. I think he was at Tottenham for 5 years. He won nothing. He's come to Chelsea. He's done badly at Chelsea, won nothing. Yeah, it's very strange. I don't get the attraction with Poch. Is it? I don't know. I don't feel like he's a particularly inspiring speaker. I don't think his talent ID is that good. I don't understand it whatsoever. Is it because he's a yes man? Is he agreeable? Does he not ask for too much? I honestly don't know. Because like if you look at Poch's trophy cabinet, right? Erik ten Hag has achieved more in 2 years than Poch achieved in his whole 5 years at Tottenham. And that was when Tottenham was like regarded as, you know, they had really good players when Poch was there, remember? I know Tottenham are a laughingstock, but Tottenham haven't always been terrible. They have had good players at points. And he effectively won nothing with them, did he? He didn't even win a League Cup or an FA Cup. Across Poch's whole career, right? He's been a manager since... When was he a manager? So he's been a manager, Poch, since 2008. So 16 years he's been a manager. He has won 3 trophies. He's won the French champion, so the French League. He's won the French Cup and the French Super Cup. And that's it. 3 trophies at PSG, all in 1 year. In a 16-year career. I mean, is that good? PSG win the league every single year. PSG win the FA Cup equivalent in France every single year. So it's not exactly impressive, is it, that he won the trophy with PSG? PSG could probably win the French league without any manager. Let's be honest, they could. Like the level is so low that they always win. Everyone who's just joined the video, do me a small favor and smash a like. We're nearly on 200 likes, so please do hit the like button if you haven't already, and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Alan says, it's the same on every channel. It's always 80% or more want Erik ten Hag to stay. Fair enough, fair enough. Somebody in the chat says, Poch will take over the England job after the Euros. I mean, I would be open to that. You know, him managing England. I think that would be interesting. Somebody says, what about Unai Emery? Emery's just signed a new contract at Aston Villa, I think until 2029. It's not going to happen. I think Unai Emery would have been an interesting option. I'd have agreed with you there. I still probably would have stuck with Erik ten Hag, but I think Unai Emery would have definitely interested me, I would say. But yeah, I still think Erik ten Hag is better than Unai Emery personally. But you can let me know what you guys think of that in the comment section below. Right, what else have we got planned for the show this evening? I do just want to say this though quickly. Like, I am still so frustrated with the handling of this whole thing. I think it's absolutely appalling. I think it's disgraceful. And do you know what's really funny? On Twitter at the moment, the word Glazers 2.0 is trending with INEOS. So there are tens of thousands of Manchester United fans who have gone onto Twitter and writ INEOS and then writ Glazers 2.0. They're already being compared to the Glazers. They've only been in power for, 4 months? They haven't even had a full transfer window yet, and they're already getting compared to the Glazers. And you know what? I can understand why. Because I think how things have been handled so far has been a mess. They tried to get Dan Ashworth, who, let's be honest, right? I don't want to disrespect Dan Ashworth, but Dan Ashworth, it could be a good appointment, but I wouldn't say it's like an amazing appointment. Would you, Dan Ashworth? Like, if you look at the players he's got, let's have a look. Dan Ashworth, best signings. He was at Brighton. He did okay. So let's have a look. Dan Ashworth's best signings. So Dan Ashworth's best signings are apparently Trossard, Lamptey, Mitoma, Caicedo, Cucurella, Isaac, Anthony Gordon, Sven Botman, Nick Pope, and Livramento. Those are his 10 best signings. The point I'm trying to make here is, right, I'm excited about Dan Ashworth and I want him to come in, but he's not going to be able to start until next year. He left Newcastle months ago. So INEOS have messed that up, or at least they've messed up. Why have they gone to get somebody from a rival who wasn't willing to let him go? You've now got this whole situation with Erik ten Hag, which has been handled terribly. You've got targets that we want, i.e. tossing, going to rivals because we don't know what's going on with our manager. We buy nobody in January because we're told that we don't have any money, we need to wait for the summer. And the communication has been next to nothing. And I can see why fans are getting frustrated. And I understand why this hashtag is trending at the moment, Glazers 2.0. Because at the moment, let's be completely honest here, I know it's early days and we have to give them time, but so far, as of recording this video, INEOS haven't shown us anything better than what the Glazers were doing, really, have they? Let's be honest, they haven't. I mean, if anything, if you want to be really, really negative, some of the things that they've done, if it was the Glazers, there'll be people protesting outside the stadium. For example, they tried to sack like all of the people who work behind the scenes at Manchester United. They said, if you're not willing to come into the office, you can leave. That was, an email sent out to everybody. Imagine if the Glazers, right, sent an email to all of the staff at Man United. Some have worked there for 10, 20 years and said, if you're not willing to come back to the office, you've all got to go. They didn't allow any of the family members or anything of the like the groundskeepers, people to come to the FA Cup. All of these things, which in some ways, some people will look at it and say, good, stop doing that and all the rest of it. But I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here. Imagine if you flipped it on its head, right? And the Glazers announced that, they're not going to let any of the staff members go to the FA Cup final and that they've emailed all the staff saying that they're sacked unless they come into the office. Like, there'd be absolute outrage. Maybe it's the right thing to do. Maybe INEOS are making difficult decisions, and maybe in a few years' time we'll look back and say, it's so much better that the marketing department are now not working from home. Like, maybe that will be part of our success and it will be part of instilling a mentality. But as it stands at the moment, they've pissed off the staff because they've effectively taken away their privileges, i.e. being allowed to go to the FA Cup, being allowed to go to the staff party. There was apparently angry Manchester United staff who weren't able to go to the party after the FA Cup final, but then you had influencers like Speed there, I Show Speed, that guy, and people like that who were at the after party, but yet the people who actually work for Man United weren't able to go, etc., etc. So it's a difficult one, and I think it's not doing them any favours, that we're sat here a week after winning a major trophy, the FA Cup, and the trend on Twitter now is Glazers 2.0. That's what INEOS are being compared to. And this isn't my words. This is on Twitter now. Tens of thousands of Manchester United fans in the last few hours have gone onto Twitter and written the word Glazers, INEOS 2.0, comparing INEOS with the Glazers. I mean, that's mad, isn't it? There's a bit of breaking news coming out here from quite a reliable journalist on Twitter. He's called James. His tweet, his Twitter username is United Muppeteers, and he is reporting today that apparently he thinks it could be Tuchel who's going to be the manager if they can't get the guy they want more. If they can't get the guy they want more. Don't know what that means. Yeah, I mean, it's not good, is it? I honestly, I'm not looking forward to the meltdown of this fan base when Erik ten Hag's going to be sacked, because everyone's going to be upset with INEOS. People are going to be furious. And they've been sneaky, in my opinion. They've tried to wait. They've tried to calm the mood down. They've tried to make everyone forget about the FA Cup. And then they're just going to announce it, aren't they? They're just going to say, we've decided to part ways with Erik ten Hag. And they're slowly trying to take away that sense of, we just won a major trophy. We just won the FA Cup. And I don't like that. I think it's tactical. The fact that there was journalists leaking the night of the FA Cup final that Erik ten Hag was going to be sacked, right? That was being widely reported. So they've obviously wanted to sack him for a while. And they must still want to sack him. But they've just thought, you know what? Let's wait a little bit. Let's wait. Wait until the mood dies down. And then we'll slide it out there and see what happens. And that's what I don't like. It seems dishonest. It seems like they're trying to trick us. It seems like they're trying to get one over on us. And I can see now why. As I said, there are tens of thousands of Manchester United fans going onto Twitter and typing the words INEOS 2.0 and Glazers. Because how they've handled this situation is as bad as how the Glazers... I mean, being completely honest, right? Thinking off the spot, I actually think the Glazers handled sacking managers better. They didn't want Van Gaal. We won the FA Cup, and about 10 minutes after the FA Cup, they sacked him. I mean, that's ruthless, but at least you know where you stand. At least you're then planning for the next manager. Whereas Man United, they've gone completely silent. We've heard nothing. You've got people scrambling for news, guessing. And yeah, I don't like that because it's making us think that they're actually having a think about it. And I don't think they are. I think they already know what they want to do. Malk says, I'm not a huge fan of Erik ten Hag, but what the media did before that cup final was appalling. Mate, I agree. But you say what the media did, right? But INEOS could have stamped out that story in 5 seconds. They didn't. INEOS could have come out after the FA Cup final and stamped out that story. They didn't. The week after the FA Cup final, they could have come out and stamped out that story. They didn't. So it's easy to blame the media, but effectively that's what the media's job is. The media's job is to report news, to report stories, okay? And that's what they've done. And that's what I'm saying to you. It feels very much like wait it out, wait until the mood dies down, wait until everyone's off on their holidays. I mean, people are now starting to go off on holiday. The Euro starts next week. We've just had the Champions League final. They're about to announce Mbappe to Real Madrid. There's all these other things happening now, right? That people are going to be talking about. I think Mbappe is going to be announced as a Real Madrid player tonight. Twitter will go into a meltdown. That would be really interesting. If they want to be really sneaky, the time to announce Erik ten Hag's sacking will be later this evening when Mbappe is announced as a Real Madrid player. Because all of the focus will be on that. I mean, obviously Man United's always going to cause news, but you get what I'm saying here. I think it's next week the Euros start, isn't it? And the Copa America. Yeah, literally next Friday the Euros start. I just think it's sneaky. I really, really do. Because, football fans are going to be talking about the Euros now. They're going to be excited for that. They're going to be talking about Copa America. They're going to be talking about transfers. Yeah, and then they can just slide this in there. Slide in that Erik ten Hag's been sacked. Right, let's see what else people are saying. Everyone who's just joined the video, please do me a small favour and smash a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be live throughout the whole of the transfer window, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Bottom right-hand corner. CBK says INEOS 2.0. I mean, there's already people in the comments section here saying Glazers 2.0. It's really not good. Because INEOS coming in already had a lot of concern. There was already a lot of people worried. No debt being cleared. Question marks about the stadium, question marks about how much money they had to put into the club, the Glazers staying. There were so many question marks about them already. And the handling of everything so far, in my opinion, has been poor, I think. I don't think anything to this point has been handled correctly. And it's still very, very early. Things can change. We might have an amazing transfer window. So they've just announced now, breaking news, Real Madrid have just signed Kylian Mbappe. So that's been confirmed. Real Madrid have just announced the Mbappe signing. So that's going to be everywhere now. Mbappe. Now, what are the chances that INEOS announced tonight that Erik ten Hag's leaving? I mean, if that happens, you guys have to see straight through that. Because that will be the most sneaky thing I've ever seen. To wait until Mbappe going to Real Madrid is probably one of the biggest, it is the biggest transfer probably in the last decade. If not the biggest transfer ever. Right? And if INEOS now wait until that moment, which has just happened now, to then announce that the manager's going, you know why they've done that, don't they? Because they're trying to steer away from the point. Very frustrating situation. I just want it to be over, really. And I'm not looking forward to the toxicity if they sack Erik ten Hag. And I mean, on this video alone, 86% of people watching today want Erik ten Hag to stay at the club. What are you, the 86% of people, going to think if Erik ten Hag is sacked? You're going to be unhappy. You're going to lose faith. You're going to lose trust. There's going to be toxicity. There's going to be divide. There's going to be upset, anger. And this new ownership was meant to be a positive thing. And to start the new ownership with a negative seems like a stupid thing to me, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens. I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Thank you so much to everyone who has watched the video today. If anything breaks later on, I will go live. I have a feeling that there's going to be an announcement tonight. This is just my feeling. I feel like they're going to try and do it at the same time as the Mbappe contract, but I might be wrong. Please do make sure to smash a like on the video before you go. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new. I will be live every day throughout the transfer window, in the morning, in the evening, and whenever there's any breaking news, I go live as well. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button. I'll be back at 11 a.m. UK time tomorrow. If anything breaks between then and now, I will go live. Have a lovely evening, everybody. Speak to you later.